wasn't marked with a single
New York
spot. It had
City,
four.
a
Each
metropolis
was
of
labeled only
dreams,
with a woman's
where the
name,
ambitious and the
and one of
brilliant
them
come to stake their
wasn't
claim on the
Sarah's.
future.
It
For
was
19-year-old
Jenny,
Priya Sharma, it was the ultimate prize, a
1,995.
full
When the
scholarship to
team
Columbia
cross-referenced missing
University,
persons from
a
that
ticket out of her modest life in Mumbai, and a chance to walk among the intellectual giants she had only ever read about. By March of 2024, she was living in an apartment on the Upper East Side with views that most people only see in movies. She seemed to have it all, but the dream had a price. On a cold Tuesday morning, that expensive door was broken down by the NYPD inside. They found Priya Sharma lifeless. The scene was tragically familiar. A bottle of pills, a half-empty glass of wine. The initial call was simple. Another brilliant young life cut short by the immense pressures of the city. The medical examiner's preliminary finding, accidental overdose. A sad but closed case. But for one detective, the perfect, tragic scene felt a little too perfect. He couldn't shake the feeling that behind the polished facade of Priya's new life, a carefully constructed lie had just begun to unravel. To understand what happened in that apartment, you have to understand Priya. She wasn't just another student. She was a supernova. Her professors spoke of a mind that was not only sharp, but deeply inquisitive. A young woman destined for a career in data science that would change the world. She arrived in New York in the fall of 2023, carrying two oversized suitcases and a heart full of nervous excitement. The city was everything she imagined: a dizzying, exhilarating, and profoundly lonely place. The scholarship covered her tuition and a modest dorm room, but the chasm between her budget and the lifestyle of her peers was vast. While others talked about ski trips to Aspen and weekend getaways to the Hamptons, Priya was carefully calculating her grocery bill. She was proud, fiercely independent, and determined to succeed on her own terms, which made her initial reluctance to accept help all the more significant. It was at a university-sponsored tech networking event that she first met him. He introduced himself as Marcus Wellington, a charismatic tech entrepreneur and a Columbia alumnus. He was older, perhaps in his late 30s, impeccably dressed, with a disarming smile and a genuine interest in her work. He spoke of wanting to pay it forward, to mentor bright, young minds who reminded him of himself. To Priya, who felt like a small fish in an enormous, indifferent ocean, Marcus seemed like a lifeline. He didn't just offer vague advice. He offered tangible solutions. He listened intently as she spoke of her financial worries, nodding with an empathy that felt all too real. He told her that a mind like hers shouldn't be burdened with concerns about rent or food. It should be free to create. He made it clear he wasn't offering a loan, but an investment in her future, a fellowship from his private foundation. It was a perfect story
February
told by the perfect
2024,
gentleman. Priya,
Dubai,
cautious but
the city of
desperate,
golden
eventually
skyscrapers
accepted. The
and
first step
impossible
was the
promises.
apartment.
It was
Marcus
here that
insisted that
Samir
noisy,
Hoffman,
cramped
a
dorm room,
45-year-old
no place for
German
serious
businessman,
study.
believed he
her
had found the
furnished
love of his
one-bedroom on the
life.
Upper East
Yasmin
Side,
was 22
telling her
years
it
old,
was a corporate
with hair
apartment
as
his
black as the
company
desert
was
night.
managing executive.
2024.
Then came the
Dubai,
gift, a new
the city
laptop,
of golden
a designer
skyscrapers
wardrobe, so
and
she could
impossible
network with
promises.
confidence,
It was
a
here
weekly
that
stipend
Samir
that
Hoffman,
erased all her
a
financial
45-year-old
anxieties.
German
To her
businessman,
friends,
believed
Priya's
he had
sudden
found the
change
love
in
of his
fortune
life.
was astounding.
Yasmin was
She
22
explained it
years
away
old,
as a
with
fellowship
hair
from a
as black
generous
as the desert
benefactor,
night.
a story that was, on the surface, entirely plausible in a world of elite philanthropy. But with each gift, an invisible string became tighter. Marcus began to take up more and more of her time. He'd text constantly, asking about her day, her classes, her friends. At first, it felt like attentive mentorship, but soon, the invitations to platonic coffee meetings turned into lavish dinners at restaurants she couldn't afford. The mentorship sessions began to feel less like professional guidance and more like personal interrogations. He subtly discouraged her from spending time with her old friends, suggesting they were a distraction from her true potential. He was building a cage around her, and it was gilded with so much luxury she didn't even realize she was trapped. Detective Michael Torres was a 25-year veteran of the NYPD. He was a man who operated on instinct, honed by decades of walking through crime scenes that whispered stories the official reports often missed. In Priya Sharma's apartment, the whispers were deafening. The place was immaculate, Too immaculate. An accidental overdose scene is usually one of chaos, of despair. This was sterile. The pill bottle was neatly placed on the nightstand, its cap loosely on top. The wine glass had no smudges, as if it had been wiped clean. There was no sign of the vomiting that often accompanies such
March
a death.
2023.
Staged,
The stifling heat of the Indian afternoon contrasted with the cool breeze of the air conditioning in the small apartment where Priya Sharma and her younger sister, Anjali Sharma, lived. The two young women, aged 28 and 24 respectively, shared a modest two-room space in the Andheri neighborhood, working long hours in a textile factory to support the family they had left behind in their hometown of Jaipur. Priya had always been the more responsible of the two. Since their parents died in a traffic accident 5 years earlier, she had taken on the road.
He found her a furnished one-bedroom on the Upper East Side, telling her it was a corporate apartment visiting executive. Then came the gifts, a new laptop, a designer wardrobe, so she could network with confidence. A weekly stipend that erased all her financial anxiety. To her friends, Priya's sudden change in fortune was astounding. She explained it away as a fellowship from a generous benefactor, a story that was, on the surface, entirely plausible in a world of elite philanthropy. But with each gift, an invisible string became tighter. Marcus began to take up more and more of her time. He'd text constantly, asking about her day, her classes, her friends. At first, it felt like attentive mentorship, but soon, the invitations to platonic coffee meetings turned into lavish dinners at restaurants she couldn't afford. The mentorship sessions began to feel less like professional guidance and more like personal interrogation. He subtly discouraged her from spending time with her old friends, suggesting they were a distraction from her true potential. He was building a cage around her, and it was gilded with so much luxury she didn't even realize she was trapped. Detective Michael Torres was a 25-year veteran of the NYPD. He was a man who operated on instinct, honed by decades of walking through crime scenes that whispered stories the official reports often missed. In Priya Sharma's apartment, the whispers were deafening. The place was immaculate. Too immaculate. An accidental overdose scene is usually one of chaos, of despair. This was sterile. The pill bottle was neatly placed on the nightstand, its cap loosely on top. The wine glass had no smudges, as if it had been wiped clean. There was no sign of the vomiting that often accompanies such a death. It felt staged, like a scene from a play. Torres's unease grew when he read Priya's financial records. A student on a full scholarship, with no listed employment, was somehow paying the $5,000 monthly rent on this apartment. He spoke to her friends from the dorms. They described the Priya they knew, brilliant, kind, but always struggling for money. Then they described the new Priya, distant, secretive, and flush with cash, all thanks to a mysterious mentor named Marcus Wellington. She found her own name, Priya Sharma: vulnerability, financial hardship, ambitious, family obligation. Her stomach churned as she clicked open another folder, this one filled with videos. They were from hidden cameras, placed in the apartments Marcus had provided for the women, including her own. The footage was intimate, invasive, the ultimate tool for blackmail. He was a spider, and this was his web, spanning the entire country. But the most terrifying discovery was a file dedicated to a 20-year-old NYU student named Jin-Suk Kim. Priya remembered the headlines from the previous year. A brilliant art student, dead from a fentanyl overdose in her Greenwich Village apartment. The death had been ruled a suicide. But here, on this laptop, was Marcus's file on her.
What you're about to hear will shock you to your core and make you question everything you think you know about love, identity, and the dark secrets people hide behind perfect smiles. This is the true story of Celeste Santos, a beautiful Filipino woman who traveled thousands of miles to find love in Texas, only to discover that some secrets are too dangerous to keep hidden. Before I dive into this heart-wrenching tale that will leave you speechless, priceless. Make sure you hit that like button because this story needs to be heard by everyone. And don't forget to subscribe because we bring you the most incredible true stories that will change how you see the world forever. The humid Texas heat beat down mercilessly on Houston's International Airport as Blake Morrison adjusted his cowboy hat and checked his watch for the 10th time. It was August 15, 2023, and after 2 years of online conversations, video calls, and countless promises, he was finally going to meet Celeste Santos in person. Blake, a 38-year-old oil rig supervisor from Beaumont, Texas, had never imagined he would find love through a computer screen, but Celeste had changed everything. Her photos showed a stunning woman with long black hair, delicate features, and eyes that seemed to hold all the warmth of the Philippine sun. More importantly, her messages revealed an intelligence and kindness that had captured his heart completely. Blake had been married once before to his high school sweetheart Sarah, but that relationship had crumbled under the weight of his demanding work schedule and her growing resentment of his traditional views about marriage and family. After the divorce 3 years ago, Blake had thrown himself into work, spending weeks at a time on offshore oil rigs, coming home to an empty house in
Korea is relentless. The mask of Marcus Wellington finally drops, and the monster, David Chen Morrison, emerges. His voice turns venomous, threatening. "You stupid little girl," he snarls. "You have no idea what you've just done." Then, the audio becomes a horrifying blur of sound. A thud, the sound of the struggle, Priya's muffled cries. It is brief, brutal, and sickening. What follows is Morrison talking to himself, a cold, methodical monologue as he works. "Okay, David, think, make it look right. The pills, the wine, just like the last one." He can be heard moving around the apartment, opening and closing drawers. This was his fatal mistake. In his arrogant belief that he could control every detail, he narrated his own crime. Back in the present, this recording was the smoking gun Torres needed, but he also had the physical evidence Morrison had failed to erase. A single fiber from his cashmere coat was found on the rug near Priya's body. The wine glass, while wiped of prints, still had trace amounts of a powerful sedative on the rim that hadn't been prescribed to Priya. And Morrison, in his haste, had missed the phone, which had fallen from Priya's pocket and slid under the bed's dust ruffle during the struggle. Her final, courageous act had been to ensure her voice would be heard, even after she was silenced. David Chen Morrison was apprehended 2 days later at JFK Airport, attempting to board a one-way flight to a country with no extradition treaty. The evidence was overwhelming. Priya's thumb drive and the audio recording laid bare his entire operation. He was a modern-day slaver, preying on the unique vulnerabilities of international students. He would use his wealth and charm to isolate them, create a total dependency, and then traffic them to his powerful associates, using the blackmail material he collected to ensure their silence. The death of Jin Suk Kim was officially reopened and reclassified as a homicide. With the information from the laptop, federal authorities were able to identify and rescue 17 other young women trapped in Morrison's network across 5 different states.
Những rào cản trí tuệ bám chặt vào suy nghĩ và hành vi khiến ta không nhận ra.
Their testimony, combined with Priya's final recording, sealed Morrison's fate. He was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. Priya Sharma came to New York City seeking a dream, but found a nightmare. Yet, in her darkest hour, she fought back not with violence, but with her intellect, her courage, and her unshakable will to expose the truth. Her life was tragically cut short, but her final act was one of profound bravery that dismantled an evil enterprise and saved countless others from the same fate. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of the hidden dangers that can lurk behind promises that seem too good to be true, and a powerful testament to a brilliant young woman who, even in death, brought a monster to justice. Her legacy is not in her death, but in the lives she saved. The search for truth in the darkest of places is a journey that never ends. If you found this journey for justice compelling, and want to help keep a spotlight on stories that deserve to be told, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. Her legacy is not in her death, but in the lives she saved. The search for truth in the darkest of places is a journey that never ends. If you found this journey for justice compelling, and want to help keep
Have
the
you ever
spotlight
believed
on
that the two
stories
people
that
you
deserve
trust
to
the
be
most,
told?
your best friend and the person you love,
Thank you for
could be
watching.
the very ones destroying your life? For Sarah, everything seemed perfect. A cozy little home, bright smiles on social media, a devoted husband, and a best friend who felt more like a sister. But behind that glowing wedding photo hid a growing darkness, a secret that would turn love into a nightmare and trust into a deadly weapon. It started with one strange text, a blurry photo online, and then one fateful night when everything came crashing down.
Điều bạn sắp nghe sẽ không chỉ là một câu chuyện tình yêu,